Hello there, friend. Before we dive into this story, I want to take a moment to thank you for being here. This tale is crafted just for someone like you, someone who loves raw emotions, unexpected twists, and lessons that linger long after the words fade. If this resonates with your heart, could you do me a small favor? Press that like button right now as a gesture of kindness. It means so much to creators like me who pour their souls into these stories. And hey, let me know where you're tuning in from in the comments below. Are you watching from New York? Or maybe somewhere across the globe? Your presence connects us all. Now let's talk about something universal. Those moments when life tests our strength, when fear grips us tighter than we'd ever admit, and when hope seems like nothing more than a distant flicker. Have you ever felt underestimated by someone who should have believed in you? Or worse, laughed at because they couldn't see what you were capable of? Well, today's story will take you deep into such an experience. One filled with pain, suspicion, resilience, and ultimately triumph. So lean in close, because this one might just remind you of yourself. Let's dive to see. It was early morning in a quiet town nestled between rolling hills and thick forests. The air carried a chill, sharp enough to wake even the sleepiest soul. Officer Callum Hayes stood outside the police station, his breath visible in short puffs as he adjusted his badge for the 100th time that week. He wasn't nervous, not exactly, but there was a weight on his shoulders, heavier than any uniform could explain. It wasn't the job itself. It was the whispers behind closed doors, the sideways glances, the unspoken doubts about whether he belonged here at all. Callum had always dreamed of wearing the badge. As a kid, he'd sit cross-legged on the floor, flipping through old case files his uncle used to bring home. To him, being a cop wasn't just about authority. It was about justice, fairness, making things right. But dreams can bruise too, especially when others don't believe they're meant for someone like you. And someone like you? That phrase haunted Callum every day since joining the force 6 months ago. You see, Callum was the first black officer in this small-town department, a fact no one let him forget. Some welcomed him with cautious smiles, but others, well, their silence spoke louder than words ever could. Inside the station, Chief Randall Yates leaned back in his chair, boots propped up on the desk. His laugh echoed down the hallway, loud and unrestrained. "Rookie's late again," he said, smirking at Deputy Logan Pierce, who sat slouched in the corner, sipping coffee from a chipped mug. "Guess some people just aren't cut out for this line of work." Logan chuckled awkwardly, unsure if agreeing would make him look complicit or simply obedient. Either way, he stayed quiet, letting the chief's words hang heavy in the room. But then, footsteps echoed down the hall, steady, deliberate. Callum walked in, head held high despite the knot tightening in his stomach. He nodded politely to both men before heading to his locker. Randall watched him, arms crossed, amusement dancing in his eyes. "Morning, rookie," he called out, voice dripping with mockery. "Sleeping in again? Maybe next time, set 2 alarms instead of 1. Callum froze for a split second, fingers gripping the edge of his locker door. He wanted to snap back, to defend himself, but years of biting his tongue taught him better. Instead, he turned slowly, forcing a calm smile. "Morning, Chief. Just grabbing my gear. Ready to get started whenever you are." Randall snorted, leaning forward now, elbows resting on his knees. "Oh, I'm sure you are. But tell me, son, how does it feel knowing half the town thinks you're only here because of quotas?" He paused, tilting his head like he expected an answer. When none came, he continued, "Or maybe you think you'll prove 'em wrong someday. Make 'em eat their own words." The tension in the room thickened, almost suffocating. Logan shifted uncomfortably, setting his mug down with a soft clink. Callum swallowed hard, his throat dry, but his gaze didn't waver. "I'm not here to prove anything to anyone," he replied evenly. "I'm here to do my job." "Your job," Randall repeated, drawing out each word as though savoring its absurdity. Then he burst into laughter again, shaking his head. "Well, good luck with that, kid. Hope you've got thicker skin than most rookies." And with that, Randall pushed off his chair, grabbed his hat, and strode toward the exit, leaving Callum standing there, fists clenched inside his pockets. For a moment, the station fell silent except for the faint hum of fluorescent lights overhead. Logan cleared his throat nervously, breaking the spell. "Hey, don't mind him," he muttered, avoiding eye contact. "He's just, having a bad day." Callum forced another smile, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Yeah, sure thing." But deep down, something stirred within him, something fierce and unyielding. They could laugh, doubt, sneer all they wanted, but Callum knew one truth. He hadn't come this far to give up now. Still, he wondered, how long could he keep proving himself without losing pieces of himself along the way? Later that afternoon, the call came in, a domestic disturbance near the edge of town. Neighbors reported shouting, glass breaking, and what sounded like crying children. Randall assigned Callum to handle it, likely thinking it would be yet another mundane task to test the rookie's mettle. "Go ahead," the chief said with a dismissive wave. "See what you can do. Worst case scenario, we send backup." Callum nodded curtly, masking the flicker of determination burning in his chest. He climbed into the patrol car, hands gripping the steering wheel tightly as he drove toward the address. The neighborhood was modest, lined with weathered houses and overgrown lawns. Number 412 stood out slightly, a sagging porch, peeling paint, and a broken swing hanging from a rusted chain. Voices spilled onto the street, sharp and angry, punctuated by the occasional crash. As Callum stepped out of the car, he took a moment to steady himself. This wasn't just another assignment. It was a chance to show them all what he was made of. He approached cautiously, knocking firmly on the door. A woman answered, her face flushed, mascara streaked under red-rimmed eyes. Behind her, a young boy clung to her leg, wide-eyed and trembling. "What do you want?" she snapped, voice cracking under strain. "Can't you see we're busy?" "I'm Officer Hayes," Callum said gently, holding up his badge. "Neighbors heard some noise and called us to check in. Is everything okay here?" She hesitated, glancing over her shoulder before stepping aside reluctantly. Inside, the scene was chaotic, overturned furniture, shattered glass scattered across the floor, and a man pacing furiously near the kitchen. His face twisted with rage as he spotted Callum. "Who the hell are you?" he barked, advancing a step. "We don't need cops barging in here." Callum raised his hands slightly, palms open in a gesture of calm. "Sir, I'm just here to make sure everyone's safe. Can we talk about what's going on?" The man scoffed, crossing his arms defiantly. "Safe? You think walking in here makes anything safer? Look around you. This place is falling apart, same as everything else." His voice rose with each word, shaking the walls. For a moment, Callum felt the weight of the situation pressing down on him. This wasn't just anger. It was desperation, pain bubbling over in ways that frightened even those closest to it. He glanced at the woman who stood frozen, clutching her son tighter. She mouthed something silently, barely audible, "Please." Something shifted within Callum then. He lowered his hands slowly, meeting the man's gaze with unwavering resolve. "I hear you," he said quietly, his voice steady despite the chaos swirling around him. "Things feel impossible right now, but yelling won't fix it. Hurting the people you care about won't fix it either." The man faltered, his bravado crumbling just enough for vulnerability to peek through. "You don't know what it's like," he muttered, running a hand through his hair. "You don't know what it's like to lose control of everything." Callum nodded, taking a cautious step closer. "Maybe not, but I do know what it's like to feel trapped. And I also know that lashing out doesn't solve anything. It only leaves scars. Let's figure this out together, all right? One step at a time." Minutes ticked by intense silence, the air thick with unspoken questions and fears. Finally, the man sank into a nearby chair, burying his face in his hands. The woman exhaled shakily, tears streaming down her cheeks as she hugged her son closer. Callum remained still, offering quiet reassurance until the storm began to subside. When backup arrived 20 minutes later, they found the situation contained, not perfect, but manageable. The family agreed to counseling services, and the man promised to leave for the night to cool off. As Callum walked back to his patrol car, exhaustion settled into his bones, but so did something else: pride. Pride not just in handling the call, but in showing compassion where others might have resorted to force. Back at the station, word spread quickly about how the rookie handled the incident. Even Randall raised an eyebrow, though he tried to hide it beneath a gruff exterior. "Huh," he muttered when Callum filed his report. "Didn't expect you to pull that off." Callum shrugged, fighting the urge to grin. "Just doing my job, Chief." Yeah, Randall replied, waving him off. Yet there was a flicker of respect in his tone, subtle but undeniable. That night, as Callum drove home, he replayed the events in his mind. He thought about the family, the man's broken voice, the child's tearful eyes. He thought about Randall's laughter earlier that day, and how sometimes the hardest battles aren't fought with fists or weapons, but with patience, empathy, and sheer willpower. Still, questions lingered in the corners of his mind. How many more tests lay ahead? Would proving himself ever truly silence the doubters? Or would he always carry the burden of expectation, heavier than any badge? As dawn broke the next morning, Callum returned to the station, ready to face whatever challenges awaited. Little did he know, the greatest test of his career and character was yet to come. Over the following weeks, Callum became a fixture in the community. Folks started recognizing him not just as the new guy or that rookie, but as Officer Hayes, the one who listened, who cared, who showed up when needed most. Kids waved at him during school patrols, shopkeepers greeted him warmly, and even skeptical neighbors softened their stares. Yet, despite this growing acceptance, shadows still loomed within the station walls. Chief Randall remained unpredictable, alternating between mocking jabs and begrudging acknowledgement. On days when Callum successfully resolved tricky cases, Randall would mutter something vague about getting lucky. Other times, he outright dismissed Callum's contributions, attributing successes to dumb chance rather than skill. Each comment stung, but Callum learned to wear them like armor, deflecting blows meant to rattle his confidence. Still, doubt crept in during quieter moments. Was he imagining progress, or was Randall deliberately trying to undermine him? One evening, after a particularly grueling shift, Callum found himself sitting alone in the break room, staring at the cracked linoleum floor. Exhaustion weighed heavily on his shoulders, and frustration simmered beneath the surface. Why couldn't Randall see past his biases? Why did every victory feel hollow when met with indifference, or worse, ridicule? Deputy Logan entered quietly, holding 2 steaming cups of coffee. He hesitated near the doorway before approaching cautiously. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, placing 1 cup on the table. Callum looked up, surprised. "Sure," he said, gesturing to the empty chair across from him. "Thanks." They sat in silence for a while, sipping their drinks. Finally, Logan spoke, his voice low and hesitant. "Look, I know things haven't been easy for you around here. Randall, he's tough on everyone, but with you," he trailed off, searching for the right words. "Let's just say he holds you to a different standard." Callum sighed, rubbing his temples. "Different doesn't cover it. Feels more like impossible." Logan nodded sympathetically. "Yeah, I get that. But trust me, people notice. They talk. Not just about how Randall treats you, but about how you handle it. You're earning respect, even if it doesn't seem like it right now." Callum frowned, unsure whether to believe him. "Doesn't matter if people notice if the person in charge doesn't." "It matters," Logan insisted, leaning forward earnestly. "Because sooner or later, Randall's gonna have to reckon with reality. And when he does, you'll be standing tall while he scrambles to catch up." Though Logan's words offered some comfort, Callum couldn't shake the nagging suspicion that Randall's disdain ran deeper than mere prejudice. What if the chief's hostility stemmed from personal reasons, some buried resentment or unresolved guilt? The thought gnawed at him, planting seeds of curiosity mixed with unease. The next day brought an unusual twist. A tip came in about illegal activity linked to counterfeit goods circulating in the area. The source claimed the operation originated from a warehouse on the outskirts of town, a location notorious for slipping under law enforcement radar. Randall assembled the team, assigning roles with brisk efficiency. When Callum's name came up, however, the chief smirked knowingly. "All right, rookie," Randall drawled, handing him a clipboard. "This one's yours to coordinate. Let's see if you can actually deliver something worthwhile." Callum accepted the task without flinching, though his pulse quickened. Coordinating a raid required precision, strategy, and leadership, all qualities Randall seemed determined to deny him. Could this finally be the opportunity to prove himself unequivocally? Preparations buzzed with urgency. Callum studied blueprints, reviewed intel, and devised a plan that maximized safety while minimizing risk. He consulted with fellow officers, seeking input and building consensus. Despite initial skepticism, his colleagues warmed to his approach, impressed by his thoroughness and composure. On the night of the raid, tension crackled in the air. Officers gathered outside the warehouse, clad in tactical gear and armed with flashlights. Callum led the briefing, outlining steps clearly and calmly. As he spoke, he caught glimpses of Randall lingering nearby, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "Remember," Callum concluded, "this isn't just about catching criminals. It's about protecting our community. Stay focused, stay safe." With a final nod, the team moved in. The operation unfolded smoothly, thanks to meticulous planning and seamless execution. Within hours, they secured the premises, confiscated evidence, and detained suspects. Success tasted sweet, made sweeter still by the collective effort of his peers. But as Callum emerged from the warehouse, adrenaline fading into relief, he spotted Randall waiting by the command vehicle. The chief's face was inscrutable, his posture rigid. For a fleeting moment, Callum braced himself for mockery or dismissal. Instead, Randall approached slowly, stopping inches away. "You pulled it off," Randall admitted gruffly, his tone devoid of sarcasm. "Good work, Hayes." Callum blinked, stunned. "Thank you, sir." Randall hesitated, then added quietly, "Keep it up. Don't make me regret saying this." As the chief walked away, Callum stood rooted to the spot, replaying the exchange in his mind. Had Randall truly acknowledged his competence, or was this merely another layer of complexity in their fraught dynamic? Whatever the truth, one thing was certain: Callum's resolve had grown stronger, tempered by adversity and fueled by triumph. Yet, questions lingered. What secrets hid behind Randall's hardened exterior? And how far would Callum have to go before earning genuine respect, free from conditions or reservations? Callum spent the next few days replaying Randall's words in his head. Those 4 simple syllables, "Good work, Hayes," felt monumental, yet unsettling. They weren't delivered with warmth or sincerity, but rather with a grudging acknowledgement that hinted at something deeper. Was it admiration? Regret? Or perhaps a reluctant admission of guilt? The ambiguity gnawed at Callum, stirring suspicions he couldn't ignore. During routine patrols, Callum noticed subtle changes in Randall's behavior. The chief stopped openly mocking him in front of other officers, though his tone remained clipped and guarded. He occasionally sought Callum's input during meetings, asking pointed questions about strategy or decision-making. At first glance, these shifts appeared positive, but Callum sensed an undercurrent of tension beneath the surface. It was as though Randall was grappling with conflicting emotions, torn between pride and resistance. Determined to uncover the truth, Callum decided to dig into Randall's past. He started casually, striking up conversations with veteran officers during lunch breaks or coffee runs. Most were tight-lipped, wary of discussing their superior openly. But Deputy Logan proved invaluable once again, sharing fragments of information gleaned over years of observation. "Randall's been here a long time," Logan explained one afternoon, leaning against a patrol car. "Before he became chief, he worked cases involving corruption, dirty cops, shady deals, that sort of thing. Word is, he uncovered some stuff that shook the department pretty badly." Callum's interest peaked. "What kind of stuff?" Logan hesitated, glancing around to ensure no one overheard. "There were rumors, allegations that some higher-ups were involved. Money laundering, protection rackets, you name it." Randall took down a couple of big names, but not without consequences. Lost friends, allies, maybe even part of himself in the process. A cold realization settled over Callum. Could Randall's animosity stem from unresolved bitterness over those investigations? Had he grown cynical, viewing newcomers like Callum as naive idealists bound to fail? Or worse, did Randall fear being overshadowed by someone who reminded him of his younger self, driven, principled, unwilling to compromise? Driven by curiosity and a growing sense of purpose, Callum dug further. He requested access to archived case files, citing research for training purposes. Buried among dusty folders, he discovered records detailing Randall's early career. The documents painted a picture of a man fiercely committed to justice, often working solo to avoid interference. Yet, they also revealed fractures within the department, divisions that widened as Randall pursued leads others deemed untouchable. One file stood out, a sealed report marked confidential. Its contents hinted at internal strife following a major bust decades ago. Several officers resigned abruptly, citing personal reasons, while others faced disciplinary action. Among the names listed was a familiar one, Detective Marcus Bennett. Though retired now, Bennett lived nearby and occasionally visited the station for social events. Seizing the opportunity, Callum arranged a casual meeting with Bennett under the guise of gathering historical insights for a department newsletter. Over coffee at a quiet diner, Bennett proved surprisingly candid, reminiscing about the old days with a mix of nostalgia and regret. "That raid changed everything," Bennett admitted, stirring sugar into his cup. Randall thought he was doing the right thing, exposing the rot at the core. But not everyone saw it that way. Some folks felt betrayed, others scared. Lines were drawn, alliances shattered. Callum leaned forward, careful not to betray his true intentions. Did Randall ever talk about how it affected him personally? Bennett sighed, his gaze distant. Not much. He kept to himself after that, threw himself into work like it was all that mattered. Guess you could say he lost faith in people, including himself. Made him harder, colder. Still, I think deep down, he wants to believe in something again. Someone, maybe. The revelation struck a chord within Callum. Perhaps Randall's hostility wasn't solely rooted in prejudice or distrust. Maybe it stemmed from disillusionment, a protective shell built over years of disappointment and betrayal. Understanding this didn't excuse the chief's behavior, but it humanized him, revealing cracks in his stoic facade. Armed with newfound perspective, Callum approached Randall differently. During briefings, he offered suggestions respectfully, framing them as collaborative ideas rather than challenges to authority. In return, Randall responded with less hostility, though his demeanor remained reserved. Slowly, tentatively, a fragile rapport began to form. Then came the turning point, a crisis that tested both men's limits. Late one night, reports flooded in about a massive fire engulfing a residential block. Flames licked the sky, casting eerie shadows across panicked streets. Residents scrambled to escape, clutching pets, belongings, children. Chaos reigned supreme. Callum arrived on scene alongside other units, assessing the situation with practiced focus. Flames roared unchecked, devouring homes and trapping occupants inside. Desperation hung thick in the air, choking out reason and order. Amidst the pandemonium, Randall appeared, barking commands and coordinating rescue efforts. His voice rang clear above the din, authoritative yet urgent. "Hayes," he shouted, spotting Callum near the perimeter. "Get inside Unit 3. There's a family trapped upstairs." Without hesitation, Callum obeyed, grabbing a fire extinguisher and sprinting toward the blazing building. Smoke choked his lungs, heat seared his skin, but he pressed on, guided by screams echoing through the inferno. Reaching the third floor, he found a mother shielding two terrified children, huddled in a corner. "It's okay," Callum assured them, voice firm despite the chaos. "I've got you. Follow me." Guiding them carefully down smoke-filled stairs, he navigated obstacles and debris, shielding them from falling beams. Every step felt like eternity, each breath labored and painful. But finally, they emerged into fresh air, coughing and gasping, alive. As paramedics rushed to assist the family, Callum collapsed onto the curb, exhausted beyond measure. Through blurred vision, he spotted Randall watching from afar, expression unreadable. Gathering strength, Callum rose unsteadily and approached the chief. "We saved them," he rasped, voice hoarse. "All of them." For a long moment, Randall stared at him, eyes searching for something, validation, redemption, perhaps forgiveness. Then, unexpectedly, he extended a hand. "You did good, Hayes. Real good." Callum accepted the handshake, feeling its weight far beyond physical contact. In that moment, barriers crumbled, replaced by mutual respect forged in fire and shared struggle. Randall's grip tightened briefly, conveying unspoken gratitude and understanding. Afterward, as dawn broke over charred ruins, Callum reflected on the journey thus far. Challenges remained, prejudices persisted, but progress had taken root. Trust, once fractured, began to heal, not perfectly but authentically. Together, they had faced the flames, emerging stronger, united by purpose and perseverance. To anyone listening now, reading these words, remember this: life will test you. It will push you to your limits, forcing you to confront fears, doubts, and insecurities. But within those trials lies opportunity, not just to prove others wrong, but to discover your own strength, resilience, and capacity for growth. Callum's story reminds us that change begins not with grand gestures, but with small acts of courage, empathy, and determination. So wherever you are, whoever you are, keep moving forward. Keep believing in yourself, even when others falter. Because in the end, the greatest victories are those earned through integrity, compassion, and unwavering resolve. Now, dear listener, I ask you, what part of this story touched your heart the most? Did it inspire you, challenge you, or remind you of your own journey? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to let me know where you're tuning in from. Your voice matters, connecting us across distances and reminding us we're never truly alone. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for embracing stories that uplift, teach, and transform.